So I, like JD Vance back in the day when he had a fuller face and didn't have the beard, I have been a never Trump guy, especially for president since he came on the scene for various reasons. But today's video is not necessarily about JD Vance and how he was a never Trump guy, despite the fact that he gave us all of these reasons why he was a never Trump guy.
As somebody who doesn't like Trump, myself, the elites were right about Donald Trump, right? I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place. If I feel like Trump has a really good chance of winning, I might have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary.
Terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible.
But I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place. He's leading our political discourse to a very negative place. If Trump is elected president, he has to be a much different president than he was a candidate. As a candidate, he was fundamentally divisive, arrogant.
There were lots of reasons for me not being on the Trump train or the GOP for the GOP party. But a lot of times people discount the things that I say because of the fact that I'm a Democrat, and they think that all Democrats are uneducated and just follow the Democrat plantation. Cool, whatever. So let's talk about someone who is not discounted like a Black woman is. How about retired General Mark Milley and the things that he has said about Trump, especially since he was in the he was serving during the Trump administration. How about him? I'm sure that he would have a stronger voice than someone like me. So let's get into this post from Axios. Trump's top general calls former president fascist and a dangerous threat. Retired U.S. General Mark Milley said former President Trump is a fascist to the core, according to journalist Bob Woodward's forthcoming book, War, multiple outlets reported on Friday. Why it matters. Milley's existing scorn for the GOP presidential nominee has escalated. He is now the most dangerous person to this country, he told Woodward. I had suspicions when I talked to you about his mental decline and so forth, but now I realize he's a total fascist. Milley, who served as chair to the Joint Chiefs of Staff from 2019 to 2023, said to Woodward. The Army veteran was a source for Woodward's 2021 book, Peril. Context. Milley, who Trump nominated to be the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has previously made criticisms of the former president. Milley has been criticized by the far right. A never-sent draft resignation letter by Milley said Trump was doing great and irreparable harm to the U.S. in 2020 after police used tear gas and batons to clear protesters and journalists out of the then president's way for a photo op. Woodward's book reveals that Milley insisted on securing a meeting with Attorney General Merrick Garland to urge him to investigate domestic violence, extremism, and far-right militia movements after the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. Milley said he was deeply convinced that Trump remained a danger to the U.S. after losing the 2020 presidential election. Friction point. Milley told Woodward he fears being recalled to uniform and court-martialed if Trump wins the election, The Guardian reported. Trump has previously expressed wanting to court-martial retired military officers, per the Washington Post. Here's that article about that. Trump wanted to court-martial prominent retired officers. This is an old article from 2022. President Donald Trump wanted to court-martial two prominent retired military officers for their perceived slights and disloyalty. His former Defense Secretary Mark T. Esper alleges in a new book, the latest insider account to raise claims about the combative commander-in-chief and his attempts to upend government institutions. This man simply needs yes men all around him. It just goes to, the fact that he wants to be authoritarian, a dictator, and he literally is a fascist. And the Republicans, or these Christo-fascists, play right into his hand in getting him what he wants. That's the reason why they work so well together. Okay, this part. Milley appeared to call Trump a wannabe dictator in his retirement speech last year, back in 2023. Trump accused Milley of committing a treasonous act by communicating with China surrounding the January 6th riot. He said Milley's punishment should be death. Milley testified to Congress that he made phone calls to a Chinese counterpart to assure him that the U.S. wouldn't attack China. Now let's talk about what General Milley said back in 2023. All right, so this one says, Milley says Trump disrespected the U.S. military with execution comment. Outgoing chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, believes former President Donald Trump's recent suggestion that he deserved to be executed after speaking with a Chinese general during Trump's fraught final months in office is part of a broader swipe at the U.S. military by his former commander-in-chief. Speaking to CBS's Norah O'Donnell in a 60 Minutes clip released on Wednesday, Milley, who said he will take appropriate measures to ensure his and his family's personal safety in the wake of the former president's remark, offered no regrets about his efforts to reassure his Chinese counterpart about the stability of the U.S. during Trump's efforts to stay in office. In a Truth Social post last week, Trump said the back-channel communications by Milley amounted to a treasonous act that was so egregious in times gone by, the punishment would have been death. Here's the full Truth Social post. He says, Mark Milley, who led perhaps the most embarrassing moment in American history with his grossly incompetent implementation of the withdrawal from Afghanistan, costing many lives, leaving behind hundreds of American citizens, and handing over billions of dollars of the finest military equipment ever made, will be leaving the military next week. This will be a time for all citizens of the USA to celebrate. This guy turned out to be a woke train wreck who, if the fake news reporting is correct, was actually dealing with China to give them a heads up on the thinking of the President of the United States. This is an act so egregious that in times gone by, the punishment would have been death. A war between China and the United States could have been the result of this treasonous act to be continued. Obviously, this was back in 2023, a time during which Trump was not president, but he's still fanning the flames and sending out disinformation to his followers who eat it up like pie and love it. They love what he puts out on his Truth Social posts. It's a disturbing remark, even by the standards of Trump's usual inflammatory rhetoric and the contentious relationship between the two men. And it is especially jarring at a time when Trump is the clear frontrunner for the Republican nomination for president. As much as these comments are directed at me, it's also directed at the institution of the military. And there is 2.1 million of us in uniform, Milley told CBS. And the American people can take it to the bank that all of us, every single one of us, from private to general, are loyal to that Constitution and will never turn our back on it no matter what. No matter what the threats, no matter what the humiliation, no matter what. And if we're willing to die for that document, if we're willing to deploy to combat, if we're willing to lose an arm, a leg, an eye to protect and support and defend the document and protect the American people, then we are willing to live for it too. Asked by O'Donnell if there was anything inappropriate or treasonous about the outreach to China, Milley replied with absolutely not, zero, none. And the thing is, would you take the integrity of this man over the liar that Trump is and continues to be? Trump has always lied. He has no integrity. He has the integrity of a hungry hyena who hasn't eaten in 2 weeks. So that's how much integrity Trump has. Now, what has this man done to impugn his character or his integrity? I don't know. But simply saying what Trump said put a target on his back from the Trump MAGA people who don't have any, who lack sense. All right, it says, Milley made 2 back-channel calls to China's top general, Li Zhuxing, that were revealed in Peril, the 2021 book by journalists Bob Woodward and Robert Costa. In October 2020, as intelligence suggested, China believed the U.S. was going to attack them. Milley sought to calm Li by reassuring him that the U.S. was not considering a strike, according to the book. Milley called again 2 days after the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol to tell Lee that the U.S. is 100% steady, even though things may look unsteady. Milley's actions prompted sharp criticism from Trump and his allies, including calls for Milley's resignation and that he be tried for treason. The general has defended his behavior during the last days of Trump's administration, saying his interactions were not only appropriate, but that numerous senior Trump officials were aware that it occurred. Milley, who will retire at the end of this week, told O'Donnell he was not worried about his safety despite Trump's recent remarks. "I've got adequate safety precautions. I wish those comments had not been made, but they were. We will take appropriate measures to ensure my safety and the safety of my family." Then General Milley went so far as to call Trump a wannabe dictator in his exit speech.
"We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator, and we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that it's America, and we're willing to die to protect it. Every soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, Guardian, and Coast Guardsman, each of us commits our very life to protect and defend that document, regardless of personal price."
Now, this was from September of last year. Outgoing Joint Chiefs of Staff Chair General Mark Milley said Friday that military members don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. So that is what he's talking about to Donald Trump, going back and forth. Now, I know people disregard the things that I say sometimes, but what about these people who have served with them and served the country in the military? Do y'all take note when they say these types of things? Join the conversation and let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.